One day, we see a boy named Mito who suddenly finds himself transported to a strange place, and the people around him look even stranger. They're holding a magic crystal in their hands and saying incomprehensible words. So at that moment he realizes he's been taken to another world and will become one of those heroes he reads about in magazines. But suddenly, without any warning, they grab him by the neck and throw him out of the castle, slamming the door in his face. So Mito is confused and deeply upset about his situation, and he goes to sit under a bridge, talking to himself, until a girl hears him by chance as she's passing by and, seeing his clothes and the way he talks, realizes he's from another world. She seems excited and goes to talk to him, telling him he looks helpless and worn out and obviously broke, and that the king must have thrown him out after summoning him from another world. He asks her, shocked, "How did you know all that?" And she replies, "Doesn't matter, I'm Mino, I work in the castle, and I like helping strays like you." He gets really happy because he won't have to sleep on the street, and he goes with her as she shows him around the city, and he asks her, "So, where are the monsters and heroes?" She tells him to forget all the stories he used to hear in his world because they're not real here, there's no such thing, and she adds that what the king did to him wasn't legal, and it's forbidden for him to summon people from other worlds. He says, "But he's the king, surely he makes the rules and can change them anytime." So she replies, "That doesn't happen here because our world is divided into 3 classes. The first class is the common people, which is about 90%. The second class is the nobles and rulers, including the king, and the third class is the clergy, to which she belongs, and they have authority over the king himself and will soon hold him accountable for what he did." That's when he remembers something he saw in the castle and feels he must tell her. So he says that before they threw him out, they thought he had a certain power, and when they investigated and found out he didn't, they decided to get rid of him. But he got scared and kept running until he entered a room he wasn't supposed to enter and saw them summoning another girl. But the girl looked strange, like a warrior or a strong girl in some way. So he asks Mino to save that girl because it looked like the king would exploit her, and she thanks him for his honesty and for not being afraid to share what he knows, and she promises to find a way and take action. But before doing that, she takes him with her to the castle because it's getting late. But as soon as he enters, he's surprised to see the place dark and dusty, like it's been abandoned for years, even though she just said she has authority that surpasses the king. So how come she doesn't have money to restore the castle? She tells him that the authority she has doesn't bring money. It only brings problems and headaches, and adds that before he sleeps, they need to run a small test and make sure there's no kind of power inside him. He agrees, and she then tells him a magic word to say that will help with the test. And as soon as he says it, a power is born inside him, mixed with forces of darkness that can erase anything from existence. And he's amazed at himself and happy, thinking this is something that makes him special and he'll be able to use it however he wants later on. Just as he's about to turn and tell those words to Mino, he suddenly sees her draw her sword and stab him in the head, and he falls to the ground, dead. And she apologizes to him and tells him she's not so kind to strays like he thought because she's actually a huntress, and her goal is to protect her world from people like him, since they're dangerous. Then she contacts their superior, named Oral, and tells her what happened and that they need to find proof against the king that he's summoning people from other worlds so they can arrest him and expose the palace's corruption to the public, and that soon she'll try to disguise herself and sneak into the castle. But Oral tells her to calm down and not wear herself out anymore because she's been working non-stop for a very long time, to the point she's starting to forget herself. And besides, she's been away from her homeland for about 10 years, but Mino doesn't like to remember anything about her homeland or her life, and she keeps talking about work. So Oral says they should thank her teacher Flare because she's the one who helped Mino reach this level. And the moment Mino hears the name Flare, she remembers herself as a child when everyone around her died and Flare had a hand in their deaths, and she was just a child who didn't understand anything and was supposed to die too. But Oral came and ordered Flare to take Mino, train her, and raise her to help them in the future until she reached where she is now. At that moment, Momo, her assistant, arrives and interrupts her train of thought and tells her that she was able to locate the girl Mito was talking about and that she's still in the castle until now. But in order to get to her, they'll need Mino to disguise herself and dress like the servants so she can sneak into the palace. So she dresses her up, but the result looks terrible, and Momo laughs at her and takes a picture, and Mino starts chasing her to delete the photo, but then they hear people approaching, so they stay alert and quietly go out to see who it is, and they find men in soldier uniforms who seem to be with the king and want to eliminate the huntress in the castle after hearing what happened with Mito. So Mino takes her sword and swoops on the first soldier and splits him in half, then hits the second one in the face, and he falls and doesn't get back up. The commander senses danger and orders a soldier to go get reinforcements, but Momo catches up to him and takes him out, while the commander uses an ancient magical sword that emits fire capable of burning anything in its path. But Mino walks out of the flames and looks at them with eyes full of anger that terrify them and make their knees shake. And when the commander focuses on her face, he feels she's familiar. She looks exactly like Flare, to the point he thinks she is Flare. So Mino tells him she's her student, and the commander immediately grabs his men and runs away from the place, saying, "I can't can't handle Flair's wrath. After that, we move to inside the royal palace, where a maid is working and gazing at the sky, feeling like she's supposed to be in another world living her life and having a friend to share all her moments with. And just then, Mino appears, jumping over the palace wall, and they're both surprised by what just happened. We go back a few minutes to when Mino entered the palace, and everything was going as planned, and none of the guards suspected anything. She walks among them, trying to find the room where the girl is, then climbs up to the roof, ties the rope tightly, and jumps into the room where the girl is. And at that moment, she meets the maid whose name is Carrie, and by coincidence, she turns out to be the very girl she was looking for. At first, she's nervous and doesn't know what to say to the girl because she didn't expect to meet her at that moment. So she quickly comes up with a story and asks her, "You're the girl from another world, right?" And the girl says yes. So Mino warns her and tells her, "You're in great danger. The king won't spare you, and you need to escape with me immediately." Carrie gets scared and doesn't understand what's going on at all. So Mino calms her down and gently explains that the king is summoning people from different worlds because they have different powers that help him with his evil goals. Then he gets rid of them. She found her location after the boy who was also summoned escaped them while injured, and before he died, he told them about her. That's why she came to save her from them. Carrie believes her completely and feels a strange trust toward Mino. But before they escape, she asks her about her power, and she tells her that she can heal people. So Mino grabs her hand, and they run away. They keep running through the palace until they reach a slightly dark area, and Mino manages to disappear from in front of Carrie without her noticing. Suddenly, she appears from behind her and finishes her off. But what she didn't account for was that Carrie's power activates and turns back time by 1 minute before her death, and the blood and wound disappear, and Carrie wakes up thinking she tripped and fell. She turns and sees Mino, so she hurries her to escape, and Mino is shocked because that's not the power she thought Carrie had. But she pretends like nothing happened and continues the escape while having Momo stall the guards at the gate until they get out. And indeed, they manage to escape at last and reach the castle, where she contacts Oral and tells her about Carrie's talent. Oral says this talent is extremely dangerous, maybe the most dangerous one they've ever encountered, and they must eliminate her or the girl might destroy the world. So Mino asks how they'll do that since Carrie doesn't die. Oral tells her to get ready and bring Carrie to her in Graham, and she'll handle it. Mino says that Graham is too far and will take about 3 days to reach, and she doesn't have a plan or even anything to say to Carrie. Oral apologizes and tells her to try to figure something out because there are no other options. So Mino waits until the next day and wakes Carrie up after preparing breakfast, acting all cute and kind and worried for Carrie, saying she wants what's best for her, and starts talking about the king's evil soldiers who'll search for her everywhere and about what the king might do if he finds her. But Carrie only cares about the food in front of her and thinks positively in a way that irritates Mino, and every word she tries to use to scare her, Carrie flips instantly. So Mino changes the subject and tells her they're going to travel together to a slightly far place where someone will help her return to her world in her homeland. But Carrie then tells Mino she has a bad feeling and tells her that when she first saw her, she felt something very good, like something she always wished for had come true. But after she said she'll return to her world again, she wasn't happy anymore. Mino reassures her and tells her everything will be fine. Then she leaves her as soon as she sees Momo frowning and goes to talk to her. That's when Momo tells her the latest news she heard, that the king is finally going to be executed after it was proven that he ordered the summoning of Mito and Carrie, but they must still be careful of the other nobles. Mino is happy with the news of the king's execution and asks Momo about the tickets she asked her for so she and Carrie can travel to Graham. Momo hands them over, but there are 3 tickets, so Mino tells her that she and Carrie will travel alone and she won't be coming with them because Carrie mustn't see her. But Momo gets mad and bursts out, admitting that she's jealous of Carrie because they became close friends so quickly and she'll be forgotten, and she insists on going with them, or at least following them without Carrie noticing. So Mino feels like there's no hope. Momo is stubborn and won't change her mind, so she agrees to let her follow them but says no matter what, she must not appear in front of them. Then she leaves her and goes back to Carrie, who welcomes her and sits to chat with her. Mino feels like she's the same as the girl she always dreamed about, because ever since she was young, she also wished to go to another world, learn, and have a close friend, and she always imagined what her friend would look like, and it turned out very similar to Carrie. Then she goes and tells her to get ready because she got the tickets and they're going to the train station, and she hypes her up because the station is really impressive since it runs on magic. And indeed, the station is beautiful and magical, and Carrie enjoys watching it. Mino tells her to stand to the side and firmly reminds her not to talk to anyone or use her power at all to avoid drawing attention while she goes to buy a few things, but Carrie doesn't listen. By chance, a little girl falls and gets hurt, so Carrie helps her and uses her power to heal her. Mino, after buying what she needed, notices the king's soldiers at the station and thinks they're there looking for Carrie. When she looks over, she sees that Carrie is no longer standing in her spot and is about to use her power, so Mino panics because if Carrie does it, she'll attract the soldiers' attention. So she quickly thinks of a solution and comes up with the idea to entertain the people in the station with magic and creates lots of bubbles that amuse the people and kids. She rushes to Carrie and slaps her for not listening. Carrie apologizes and says she forgot the moment she saw the girl fall, but says the bubble idea was really clever. Mino calms down, and the two of them take the little girl to her mother. At that moment, a girl named Ashina appears in the station, and it turns out she's the princess, and the soldiers were there for her, not for Carrie, because she decided to leave the palace and her father in his current state, and they ask her to return with them, but she refuses and tells them she's nothing like her father. They ask her where she's going, and she says Graham, so they decide to go with her. Momo hears them and is very surprised by the princess because she's nothing like her father. As for Mino and Carrie, they board the train, and Carrie is very excited about the trip while Mino sits there upset over Carrie because she started to like her and doesn't want her to die. But she's forced to follow orders and asks Carrie to enjoy these 3 days as if they're the last 3 days of her life since she'll soon leave and return to her world. Carrie thanks her and promises her that they'll enjoy them together because she's the one she'll miss the most. Only a few hours pass when suddenly a group of terrorists storm in holding guns and threatening everyone on the train, and they're there specifically for Ashina, the king's daughter. At that moment, she was thinking about what her father did and felt ashamed of him because he was stupid and summoned useless people just to achieve what he wanted even though he knew what would happen to him. As for Carrie, she gets scared and asks Mino what will happen to them if they fall into the hands of these terrorists. Mino reassures her and tells her not to worry because she'll be with her, protect her, and won't let anyone hurt her. At that moment, one of the terrorists sees them whispering together. He yells at them and asks what they're talking about, but then he notices from Mino's outfit that she works at the castle and has a magic book with her. So he senses she's dangerous and tells her to throw away the book, and if she has any weapon, she better get rid of it too. She tries to handle the situation calmly and follow his orders, but Carrie gets really scared and yells at him out of fear, telling him to leave Mino alone, so the terrorist gets angry and is about to hit her, but Mino quickly jumps in, grabs her book off the ground, and throws it hard at one of them, knocking him out. Then she hits another one in the face and he goes down too. She tells the people not to move so they don't draw attention because the rest of the gang is probably in the other train cars. She goes to Carrie and tells her not to act reckless again like she just did because it would take her around 100 years to learn how to protect her. But even so, she thanks her and says she was really happy with what she did and now she's going to take out the rest of the gang. As for her, she needs to stay in her place and not move, and in the same moment, Momo is also fighting the terrorists and interrogating one of them about the reason they attacked this train in particular. At first, he doesn't want to confess, but she threatens to chop off his head if he doesn't talk. So he gets scared and immediately tells her they came to capture Ashina and hold her hostage in exchange for the kingdom, releasing their leader. Momo also manages to figure out the gang's exact locations. 5 of them are in Ashina's car, and the rest are near the engine room. She relays all this to Mino, and Mino orders her to secure the engine room while she joins her. Momo climbs up on the train to save time, and she sees Ashina taking down one of the gang and realizes Momo is one of the Faust of the first class, the ones she hates, so she asks her about her father the king and what happened to him, and Momo tells her that her father will be executed, but not yet. Right after that, Ashina pulls out the fire sword and attacks Momo, and Mino hears them but doesn't interfere because she knows Momo can handle herself. Ashina suspects Momo is one of the huntresses and tries to provoke her into talking, hoping to get her to reveal what happened to the 2 people the palace summoned from another world, but Momo denies knowing anything about it. But Ashina turns out to be clever and notices that Momo is still young, and surely the Faust wouldn't let her carry out such a dangerous mission. So she asks her if the one who completed the mission is on this train and if she's here to help them. From Momo's expressions, she understands she's right, so she activates the fire sword and tries to burn her, but Momo uses her defensive skills and creates a barrier that prevents the fire from reaching her. Meanwhile, Mino arrives at the engine room and talks to the commander and makes sure everything is fine. The assistant tells her that Ashina already took down most of the gang and tied up a few of them to interrogate once they reach Graham, but one of the gang members laughs at what they said and tells them they won't make it. Suddenly, the crystal in his necklace glows red and swallows him, so Mino warns the commander to be careful because the crystal could swallow them too. Suddenly, all the crystals that the gang members had merge and form a massive knight. Very strong, but his skills aren't that great. Mino manages to face him and decides to keep blocking his attacks until he gets tired. That's when she hears Momo and Ashina still arguing, and she's surprised they're still fighting, but she gets distracted by the knight attacking her. And Momo is really frustrated and wants to hit Ashina no matter what, so she takes her magic rope, spins it, and throws it toward her, but Ashina dodges it. They end up in a place full of trees, and Ashina tries to cut through them so she doesn't fall. Momo takes the opportunity to trip her, and they both fall off the train and continue fighting. The magic rope returns to the place it was thrown from, but since Momo doesn't catch it, it continues flying and accidentally crashes through the roof of the train and hits the knight, injuring him. That causes the knight to stagger and accidentally scratch the engine, making it leak, and that'll make the train go off track and crash into the one at the next station. Mino starts thinking about what to do, but then something strange happens to her, Momo, and Ashina. It makes them feel like a few minutes of their lives were cut off and passed without them realizing. Mino remembers that this was the same feeling she had when she saw Carrie wake up from death. And she's right, because Carrie enters the engine room worried about Mino, and Mino asks her what she's doing here. She tells her that she saw the red light and followed it until she got there. At that moment, the knight recovers and attacks Mino, so she fears for Carrie and decides to finish off the knight. Using magic, she absorbs all the energy inside him and kills him, but she gets really exhausted afterward because it wasn't easy and drained a huge part of her magical energy. But now, she's facing a much bigger problem because they're close to the station and the two trains are going to collide. She sits and thinks about what to do until she finds a solution and climbs on top of the train with Carrie. She tells her what will happen to them if they can't stop the train, and that her energy is now depleted and she can't stop it. That's why she needs to draw some of Carrie's energy, though it'll be a bit painful, but Carrie agrees immediately, and indeed, Mino absorbs Carrie's energy, and at the last moment, they manage to stop the train. Both of them are very happy, and they go down to check on the people and the little girl they helped earlier at the station. As for Momo, she's still arguing with Ashina, and Ashina is enjoying the fight because it's been a long time since she found someone who could match her like Momo. But Momo gets tired and curses the moment she ever met Ashina. After that, they continue their journey and everyone gets back on the train after it's fixed. But Mino remains distracted, constantly thinking about what happened. How did Carrie manage to turn time back by a few minutes? And how did Momo also feel what happened, even though Carrie's ability is supposed to affect only her own time? So how did it evolve to turn back her time and the time of everyone on the train without her realizing? And all this confirms to her that Carrie is truly dangerous, and they need to control her ability until they reach Oral, because any small mistake could end in a disaster. Just like the 4 disasters that struck their world because of humans with supernatural powers, Mino begins to remember her past, when she was a little girl in the middle of her city, which was destroyed by one of the 4 disasters, and at that time she met Flair, who was purging the city of the crazed people in it. Oral was with her and asked her to take care of Mino and train her so she could become like her when she grew up. Flair had to follow the order and went to Mino and found that she wasn't very affected by magic, which was a good thing that would give her strength in the future. So she told her to ask for anything and she'd grant it, but Mino didn't have any requests because unlike other kids, she was emotionally shattered and didn't feel anything. So Flair took her to a place called Salt Island, which was actually a whole continent full of people and life, but because of the disasters it was destroyed and everyone in it died. She wanted to show her that the destruction of her city meant nothing compared to what happened in the world. That's when Mino began to think and made her first and only request to Flair, that when she grows up, she wants to become a huntress like her. Flair agreed to her request and took her to live and study. There, they began to explain the origins of their civilization and said that a long time ago, their civilization developed because of the humans who were summoned from Japan. That's why they evolved and became similar to them in many things and even spoke the same language. But over the years, some of them lost control of their powers and caused 4 disasters that destroyed their world completely. And because there was no way to send those humans back to Japan, they were forced to kill them, and that's what Mino grew up believing and executing. All they taught her as a child was how to kill, and there were other little girls with her, but they couldn't handle it, and over time they cried and refused to do what Flair told them. So Mino went to Flair and asked to take the place of the other girls and kill instead of them, but Flair laughed at her because she was just a little girl and too weak for what she was saying. But Mino was completely serious and told Flair that she'd grow up, become like her, and eliminate anyone who stood in her way. Flair liked what she said a lot and agreed to teach Mino everything she knew so she'd become a copy of her when she grew up. And the first thing she had to learn was how to control her facial expressions so she could deceive people well. The second was to take care of her hair, because that's the secret to every girl's beauty. She stops thinking about those memories because they finally arrive in Graham, and she wakes Carrie up and tells her to watch the city. As soon as they arrive, Carrie is amazed by its appearance, the streets, and the people, and she asks Mino if they can take a short walk around the city. Mino agrees, but first they'll go to a place that Mino really loves and visits every time she comes to the city, which is very large and beautiful inside. Carrie is completely mesmerized and wishes she could live in that castle forever. But what she doesn't know is that it's the same place where she'll be executed. After a while, Oral arrives and welcomes Carrie, reassuring her that everything is going well and the ritual to return her to her world will be complete in 2 days. She sits and talks with her for a while and asks them about their journey full of adventures, and they keep chatting until morning. When Oral hears about what Mino did during the trip, she decides to reward her and tells her that she'll let her visit sacred places and that the castle will cover all the expenses. Mino is happy and thanks Oral for her trust, but Oral has one condition first. During the 2 days they'll be preparing Carrie, Mino must investigate the case of the missing girls that happened in Graham. She tells her it's not necessary to find evidence or stress herself. She just needs her opinion on what's happening. Then the two of them go to their room, which Oral prepared, and Mino likes it very much and is sure Carrie will love it. But Carrie comes in angry and slams the door, so Mino is surprised and asks her what's bothering her. Carrie, for the first time, gets mad at her and says that they agreed to go out and explore the city together, but she forgot and promised Oral she'd investigate the case. Mino feels she made a mistake because she really did promise Carrie they'd go out, so she starts thinking about what to do until she sees Momo in front of her, and she gives her the investigation task and explains clearly what she needs to do. Momo agrees casually but asks her what she'll do for the next 2 days. Mino tells her she'll be going out with Carrie, so Momo gets upset and jealous about her friend and refuses to do the mission, but Mino insists over and over until she finally agrees. Before she leaves, Mino tells her that she suspects the gang that attacked them on the train is behind the kidnappings of the girls. And even if that's not the case, what matters now is that they find the creator of the red crystal that was with them, because he seems to be one of the nobles, and if they catch him, it'll be in their favor. Then she goes to Carrie to tell her that they're going out, but she finds Carrie sad and very upset with herself because of how she spoke earlier. She tells Mino that she's willing to go out alone, but Mino insists on going with her, which makes them both really happy and excited for their outing. The next day, they wake up early in the morning and start their journey together, roaming the city inch by inch. Carrie is so excited to see everything and can't wait, to the point that Mino can't keep up with her and doesn't know where to take her first. After a while, Mino gets really tired because Carrie keeps running around and doesn't give her a chance to rest, even for a bit. Finally, night falls, and it's time to return to their room, but still, Carrie feels hyper and doesn't even want to sit on the bed, so she doesn't waste a single moment. So Mino throws the towel in her face to push her into the bathroom and get some space. Mino sits down and blames herself for being a hypocrite, pretending to Carrie that they're friends and love each other, even though in just 1 day, she'll have to kill her because she's upset. She goes to talk to Momo and forgets about Carrie for a bit. Momo starts telling her about the latest findings from her investigation and says she learned by chance from people living in Graham that they dispose of anything bad or negative through the sewers. It felt strange to her, and she kept asking herself why the sewers in particular. So she went to some other people who might know more useful information, and indeed, she learned from them that the ones who get rid of anything bad in the city are the nobles' palace located next to the sewer center. From there, they start suspecting that the nobles are behind the disappearance of the girls. Mino praises Momo greatly for her intelligence and asks her to keep going because she feels like they'll find strong evidence against the nobles, which will benefit the Faust Church tremendously. In the middle of the conversation, Momo asks Mino why she sounds upset, but Mino doesn't like talking about it and promises Momo that once this is over, she'll reward her because she's been working hard for a long time, following orders, and is really good at her job. That's why the next day, she takes Carrie out again to explore the city. They stop in front of a vendor, and she buys some accessories for herself and Momo, but Carrie thinks the accessories are for her, but Mino tells her it's a gift for one of her colleagues, so Carrie gets moody. Mino starts thinking of how to make it up to her until she finds an accessory that suits her and buys it for her. Carrie says she'll wear that hairband forever and will never take it off, even after she returns to her world. A few hours later, Mino returns to the castle with Carrie and meets Oral because they start preparing for the final rituals that are supposedly meant to return Carrie to her world, but in truth, they're preparing everything to kill her. Meanwhile, Momo is still in the sewers and, by chance, discovers a secret passage. When she enters enters it, she finds that the walls of the passage are heavily reinforced, which increases her suspicions about the place. She says they're definitely hiding something in there. As she walks further, she bumps into Ashina and is very surprised to find her in a place like that. Ashina starts laughing and teasing Momo, asking what she's doing there. Momo makes up any excuse just to get rid of her, but Ashina says that when she was a princess and came to Graham, she felt the knights were hiding something, and when she asked them as a princess, no one answered her. So she decided to act on her own. She kept searching and searching until she reached this place. And since she doesn't believe Momo's excuse, she asks her again why she's here, suggesting they could cooperate, but Momo ignores her, so Ashina annoys her and pulls the ribbon from her hair. Momo gets really angry this time, and Ashina guesses that the ribbon means something to her and holds memories, and indeed, Momo remembers when she was little, and Mino used to brush her hair and tied that ribbon for her, and since then, she's never taken it off. At that same moment, Mino and Carrie are with Oral, and it's time to kill her. Oral takes them to a secret place in the castle called the Ritual Hall. The place feels strange to Mino because she never expected a room like this to exist in the castle. Before Carrie sits on the magic chair, she hugs Mino, and they say goodbye. Meanwhile, Momo and Ashina reach a spot in the passage that resembles the Ritual Hall, but they don't understand what they're seeing at first. Oral, on the other hand, is surprised by the strong friendship between Carrie and Mino, and that upsets Mino a lot because, for the first time, she feels like Oral has no heart. Momo and Ashina reach a very important point and manage to figure out from the room's layout that it's responsible for interworld travel. And not just that, but they realize that the passage links the Faust to the royal palace, which means both sides knew about the secret room and have been conspiring together until now. This dangerous information needs to reach Mino right away, but she's shocked to find that their communication is cut off, and that only happens when the Faust use magic to disrupt signals. Momo starts getting more worried about the Faust and becomes desperate to reach Mino in any way. Finally, she manages to break through the magic and contacts Mino, warning her to watch out for Oral because she's an evil woman, not what they thought she was. Oral can read her mind and hears what Momo said, so she shows her true self. She tells Mino that she assigned her this mission to distract her, but since the plan didn't work, she'll finish off Mino, Carrie, and Momo. She destroys Mino's magic book using the power of the tri-crystals and splits the ground beneath her, causing her to fall inside. Carrie is shocked by what happened, and Momo senses something is wrong with Mino, so she tries to go to her, but Ashina stops her because there's a trap in the area. Suddenly, a giant dragon appears that they must defeat to escape, and from that moment, Momo and Ashina cooperate for the first time. Meanwhile, after Mino falls into the pit, she sees the corpses of the missing girls around her and a room for interworld travel, and realizes that the Faust are behind everything that happened. Oral descends to her. She confesses to being an evil woman, and after spending years helping people, she felt bored and decided she deserved a reward, so she planned to exploit Carrie and her power to restore her own youth. Mino can't believe what she hears and thinks Oral has gone insane. When Mino tells her that what she wants is impossible because she won't be able to control Carrie's power, Oral shocks her by revealing that the room they were in will make Carrie lose her memory, her personality, and everything, leaving her as an empty vessel. From there, they'll be able to extract all her power and control it however they want. Oral summons a monster in the form of a knight and commands it to attack Mino and finish her off, but Mino starts thinking of a way to defeat the knight without using up all her magical energy because she'll definitely need it for her battle with Oral. At the same time, Momo and Ashina are fighting the dragon that appeared, but the problem they face is that the dragon doesn't die. Every time they cut off a part of it, it regenerates. Ashina asks Momo if she has any magical way to get rid of the dragon, but Momo tells her that magic isn't working in the place they're in. As for Carrie, the other priests make her sit on the chair, and a large white orb approaches her to swallow her and erase all her memories. But when Carrie remembers her memories with Mino, she refuses the idea of forgetting her, which makes her furious, and she forcefully gets up from the chair and freezes each of the priests in place using her power, stepping away from the white orb. She realizes that Mino wanted to get rid of her, but she decides to forget everything she just learned and erase all the bad things related to Mino, while keeping the important memories that help her understand what's going on. As for Momo, the dragon breathes fire on her, and the ribbons in her hair, the ones Mino gave her, burn and fall to the ground as ashes. When she sees them, she starts crying and feels deeply sad. At the same time, she becomes so angry that when the dragon attacks her, it can't consume her because she uses most of the energy inside her body and begins pounding the dragon. Then, using that energy, she destroys the entire castle above them, and both she and Ashina manage to climb out of the underground pit and fight the dragon among the people. This gives Ashina more space to use her power and attack the dragon, but Momo doesn't give her the chance. She uses her magic to absorb the dragon dragon into the red crystal and throws it at the castle, causing an explosion that shakes the area and distracts Oral from Mino. Mino realizes that Momo was the one who did it and starts bragging about her in front of Oral. That's when Carrie finds her and runs to her, but Mino starts yelling at her because she had told her to escape at the first chance she got, but Carrie doesn't listen and keeps clinging to her. So Mino starts arguing with her, and they begin bickering in front of Oral, forgetting everything happening around them. Momo finally finds Mino and starts crying, but Mino can't comfort her because she's too busy with Carrie and tries to cover her eyes, so she doesn't see Momo. Oral's knight attacks Momo, so she focuses on him, this time using all her remaining energy to eliminate him far from Mino to give her space for her fight with Oral. Mino spends a moment thinking until she finds a way to trick Oral. She fills the area with bubbles and uses a small blade to break the glass container filled with red liquid so it spills on Oral and kills her. But Oral is clever and quick-witted. She figures out Mino's trick and manages to grab the blade. However, that was just part of Mino's plan, because as soon as the bubbles reach the red liquid, they charge it with electricity, the glass shatters, and the liquid spills. Still, Oral manages to save herself and avoids the liquid. She's about to turn around and finish Mino once and for all when she suddenly sees that the person in front of her is Flare, not Mino. She realizes Flare has been disguised all this time as Mino to get her revenge, and since Flare is extremely powerful, even stronger than Oral, Oral starts apologizing and begging for forgiveness. But the twist is that it's actually Mino disguised as Flare, not the other way around. She uses her weapon and aims it at Oral's head, and the weapon is supposed to kill her permanently. But Oral had a protective barrier, and the weapon barely touches her. Mino's appearance returns to normal, and she runs out of ideas and doesn't know what to do with Oral until she remembers Carrie's ability and decides to use it. She asks Carrie to help her and give her a portion of her power. When the clash begins between Oral's power and Carrie's power, Carrie's light energy defeats Oral in less than a minute, and Oral collapses to the ground, now looking 100 years old. She also asks Mino for forgiveness, saying she thought of herself for the first time in her life, but that one time was enough to cause her death. After Mino finishes her battle with Oral, she goes up to check on Momo and finds her lying on the ground from exhaustion. She picks her up, takes her home, brushes her hair, gives her the new hair clips she had bought as a gift, making up for the ones that burned, and promises they'll make even more memories together. As for Carrie, she has a terrible nightmare and wakes up terrified. She runs to Mino to feel safe and tells her she dreamed of herself dying. Flare appeared, killed her, and buried her next to Mino. To Carrie, it was just a terrible dream, but Mino feels like it could be the future and what will eventually happen to them. So she goes to Momo and tells her that she must continue her journey with Carrie and keep moving from place to place until she finds a way to eliminate Carrie, because she really is a danger to the world. Time passes, and Mino decides to start a new journey with Carrie. They'll head to a very distant church that has a place where they can live for a while. But the castle is very far, and it will take them 3 full months to travel there. Mino thinks this duration is just right, not too long, because the goal isn't the journey itself. The goal is to find a way to kill Carrie and endure all the regret she'll feel after doing so. Before leaving their home, Carrie asks Mino to take their first step together, and Mino starts talking to Carrie about the place they're heading to. She gets her excited and tells her that they'll meet adventurers, heroes, and maybe even monsters there. Carrie gets so excited and overjoyed because to her, it's all new and strange, and she wishes they could arrive today instead of tomorrow. But Mino tells her that all the fun is in the journey itself, and that they must enjoy it because they'll make unforgettable memories along the way. But as they keep walking for a long time, Carrie starts getting bored and keeps chatting non-stop with Mino, who gets a massive headache from her. So Carrie laughs and tells her that if she stays quiet for just 15 minutes, she'll surprise her. So Carrie goes completely silent. 15 minutes pass, and then she starts chatting again. She takes advantage of them reaching the first city along the way, called Blue Sea City because it overlooks the sea. She asks Mino what she thinks of the city, and Mino tells her it's very beautiful, and the sea is even more so. Mino then starts remembering some memories from when she was little, walking with Flare. They had passed through the same city, and Flare asked her what she thought of the sea. She told her it looked nice, and all Flare commented was that Mino had no emotions. But what catches Mino's attention more at that time was something else entirely, a very thick fog surrounding the sea. She asks Flare about the fog, and Flare tells her it formed as a result of one of the 4 human mistakes, and this fog was made to prevent a disaster from breaking out. Some people even call the fog a prison because those who enter it never come back. Carrie interrupts and asks about the fog, thinking it's just clouds, but Mino refuses to tell her about it so she doesn't upset her. She ignores the question and asks her to hurry up because the sun is about to set. They arrive at the castle and ask for some money to help with their journey. The castle agrees to give Mino everything she asks for. Carrie tells Mino that she'd love to explore the city and wants to start with the isolated mansion on on the island nearby. But Mino tells her that no one is allowed inside that mansion because it belongs to a famous count, and that there are plenty of other places they can visit together. So Carrie doesn't get upset. Mino finds that the money she got from the castle is a bit much, so she decides to splurge a little on herself and Carrie. They both go to a resort to relax, and Momo meets Mino behind Carrie's back and talks to her, telling her how much she missed her and wished she were in Carrie's place right now. Mino laughs at her and asks her for the latest news. Momo tells her there's nothing new, just that recently, Ashina has been glued to her and won't leave her alone, so she decided to take her to an underground place full of monsters and sealed the pit shut, so either she dies there or ends up hating Momo and finally leaves her alone. Mino is very surprised by what Momo did but doesn't really care. Momo asks if Mino plans to stay in this city long because, according to what she heard, a gang called the Fourth Gang has taken over the city. This gang despises Flare because years ago, she captured their leader, and if they catch wind that Mino, Flare's student, is here, it won't end well. Mino tells her to relax because she's not concerned about the gang, and no one will be able to uncover their identities anyway. Before Momo leaves, she asks Mino if she's tried throwing Carrie into the chaos fog, since Carrie's power and the fog's nature are similar, and maybe the fog could control her and swallow her whole. But Mino looks hesitant, which frustrates her because, as a huntress, emotions shouldn't control her. Still, she hides all that from Momo and tells her she thought about that method and will actually try it. Carrie comes out of the bathroom, and she and Mino get ready and head out on a yacht trip. They breathe in the refreshing sea air and circle around the Count's mansion that Carrie was dying to enter. On this occasion, Mino tells her that Count Leibel, the mansion's owner, stepped down from ruling, and now his daughter, who's about their age, is in charge. Mino hopes to meet her because she's curious to know who this girl is that managed to defy the rules and take her father's place. At the same time, Princess Mano, daughter of Count Leibel, is talking about Mino and her mentor Flare with political ministers and the Fourth Gang that controls the city. They want revenge on Flare, especially Mano, who most of all wants revenge because Flare killed her mother. Meanwhile, Mino decides to follow Momo's advice and sails the yacht close to the fog. She gives Carrie a sleeping potion, places her in another inflatable boat, and pushes her into the fog, where Carrie wakes up, but something really strange happens. Carrie remembers everything. It turns out Mino had pushed her into the fog more than once, and each time she returned by turning back time, and the events repeated. That's what happens again. She finds herself back on Mino's boat, and Mino doesn't remember anything happening. After they finish their sea tour, they head back, but all Mino can think about is that she needs to find another way to get rid of Carrie because Carrie has started to control her ability, and very soon, she'll lose control over herself. When that happens, the fifth calamity will occur, and so many people will die, if not all of them. Meanwhile, we see a very strange scene of Mano, daughter of Count Leibel, bringing a small girl and placing her inside a statue filled with swords. The little girl doesn't understand anything. She just hears the words and walks inside, and the statue starts bleeding from every part. Mano, on the other hand, is greatly pleased by what she sees, and the sight makes her hungry, so she goes to eat. Mino and Carrie are still at sea, getting close to the city, and Mino asks Carrie to be careful because she's reckless and might fall into the sea and drown, just like what happened to her before. Carrie is surprised and asks Mino if she's drowned before, and Mino tells her it happened when she was a child, in this exact same place, and that she was with Flare back then and learned for the first time that Flare was a huntress. At the same time, we notice someone is watching them from a distance and reporting everything back to Mano. It turns out they've uncovered Mino's identity and know she's Flare's student, and they want revenge. As soon as Mino and Carrie reach the city, they go to the market, buy a few things, and try all kinds of food there. But while they're walking, Mino senses someone might be following them, so she becomes cautious and creates a transparent barrier around herself and Carrie that only she can see. Her suspicion proves right. In the middle of the crowd, the man following them decides to attack with a fire sword, but the barrier activates and protects her, and she pulls out a small sword and hands it to Carrie so she can defend herself if anyone gets close, and then she charges at the man. But another man grabs Carrie and holds her tightly so she can't escape, threatening Mino that if she moves, he'll finish Carrie off instantly. Mino pretends that Carrie doesn't matter to her at all and says she's just bait walking beside her, nothing more. But the man doesn't believe her and still refuses to release Carrie, saying he hates Mino deeply because their last mission failed because of her. That's when Mino realizes he's from the Fourth Gang, the ones they defeated on the train, so she pulls the small sword she gave Carrie, and it cuts the man's hand. Mino dashes toward him, strikes him, restrains him, and throws him beside his men. She grabs Carrie, and they leave the market immediately. Mano is present, watching everything unfold. Pleased she finally found Mino and managed to get rid of the gang she was using to find her. But suddenly, the gang gang members turn into monsters, and everyone in the market screams in terror. Mino turns back at the sound to see what happened and finds that the guards eliminated the monsters. But she's shocked. How could humans turn into monsters? Mano smiles a sly smile, clearly showing she knew this would happen. Mino returns to the castle and files a report about everything that happened to her in the market today. But Seely, the official in charge, clearly doesn't like Mino. She thinks they've been giving her way too much money just to find a way to get rid of Carrie. Yet she's done nothing, and Seely questions her intentions, accusing her of trying to take advantage of the castle and keeping Carrie around just to get as much money from them as possible. But Mino denies everything Seely says. Seely tells her that to gain the castle's trust again, she has to complete a mission, investigate a suspected drug case. They think humans are using it, and it might be the reason they're turning into monsters. Mino agrees immediately and goes to sit with Momo to discuss the case. She gives Momo a sample of the pills people are taking. Momo finds that the pills are made from a magical formula and tells Mino she'll personally investigate it so the castle will keep funding them and they can finally get rid of Carrie. Mino thanks her and promises that they'll spend a lot of time together once the mission is over. Meanwhile, Mano holds an emergency meeting with the top people in her city and also with members of the fourth gang. Everyone is furious with her, shouting, because they had agreed the drugs would be distributed to certain people to turn them into monsters and build an army. But she betrayed them and gave the pills to someone else. She completely ignores their complaints, which drives one woman to snap and attack Mano. Mano pulls out one of the pills she's been distributing and, using some kind of magic, forces the woman to take it. She turns into a monster and starts choking herself, terrifying everyone in the room. Mano tells them she's not distributing this drug to build an army or any of that nonsense because it's not even her idea. Someone contacted her and asked her to distribute the drug in exchange for helping her get revenge on Mino. Meanwhile, Momo catches two people distributing some medicines and suspects they might be dealing drugs, so she attacks and interrogates them. But she hears a distant, familiar voice telling her those two have nothing to do with the drugs. When she turns to see who it is, she finds Ashina still alive and looking perfectly fine, which annoys her greatly. Ashina is thrilled to see Momo again and thanks her for the great adventure they had. They start talking about all the recent events and by chance, they bring up the fog. Momo tells Ashina that the fog contains one of the four sins. It's actually a girl with powers who lost control and turned into the fog, and the place became a source of all the monsters that come into the world. After chatting a bit, Ashina suggests they team up again to locate the drug production site. Momo agrees, and they manage to find out that Princess Mano is the one producing it in her own palace. Momo goes back and tells Mino everything she learned. Mino praises her for finding the production site and says she also managed to get an invitation from Seely to attend the banquet, so the two of them will enter the palace together, but they have to be careful because Mano will be there. At that point, Momo gets really worried about her and asks her not to go because Mano is dangerous. But Mino reassures her and says she'll go in disguise and won't wear castle clothes, so no one will suspect her. Momo feels better, but says she'll stay around the palace in case Mino needs her at any moment. When Mino tells Carrie about the banquet at the palace, Carrie starts whining and begs to go with her, so Mino ends up agreeing and asks Seely to arrange another invitation for Carrie. The two of them put on their nicest dresses and go to the banquet. Mino notices that Mano has her eyes on her the entire time. In the middle of the event, Mano announces that she's prepared a feast and wants everyone to eat from it. After that, she looks at Mino again with a gaze that doesn't sit right with her. As for Carrie, she tries to be social and goes around introducing herself to everyone, drawing a lot of attention. So Mino gets annoyed and warns her for the 100th time to stay in her place, not talk to anyone, and not draw attention because they don't want anyone to suspect them. The most important thing is that she must not eat or drink anything at the party. Carrie apologizes and promises she'll be more careful from now on. Mino leaves the party to look for any clue or anything that might help her investigation. Meanwhile, Momo leaves the party surveillance and heads to the drug production area, knocks out the guard standing there, breaks the door, and enters. At the same time, Ashina also arrives at the party and walks around a bit. She sees Mino and feels like she looks suspicious, so she approaches her and tries to talk. But Mino has her back turned, so Ashina quickly realizes that Mino isn't some rich girl like she appears. She's a disguised fighter. When Mino realizes that Ashina has figured out her identity, she's forced to fight her, but first casts a spell to hide her face. As for Momo, after entering, she takes down the rest of the guards inside the room and finds a scared girl there. She refuses to hurt her and only asks her to tell her everything she knows about the drug, who's making it and how. She threatens her that if she lies about even one word, her fate will be the same as the other guards who were killed. Then we see Ashina and Mino fighting. Tensions are high, and neither gives the other a chance to win. Ashina is extremely strong and fast, while Mino is smart and has superior skills. She uses bubble magic to distract Ashina and at incredible speed before Ashina can even notice. Mino slashes her with her sword, injuring her. Ashina begins to bleed, which enrages her even more and makes her want to defeat Mino at any cost. She pulls out her fire sword and aims it at Mino, but suddenly, someone appears and stands between them, and we can't see their face. Then suddenly, there's an explosion and fire in the area. Carrie sees the explosion from inside the palace and gets really scared for Mino because the explosion happened in the same place where Mino was. Without realizing it, her power activates on its own, and something happens that she doesn't understand. Meanwhile, Ashina realizes Mino has disappeared and finds a coin on the ground with a specific symbol on it, one that Momo also had. She realizes that Momo is working with Mino and laughs, thinking she now has something to tease Momo with the next time she sees her. As for Carrie, we discover that she's been through all of this before. Every event that's happened with Mino has repeated over and over. She kept going back in time. But this time, something is different. New things are happening for the first time, and that surprises her greatly, especially when Mano shows up and talks to her. She gets scared because Mano never interacted with her in the previous timelines. Mano, on the other hand, is very intimidating, speaking calmly and coldly. She asks Carrie about her life back in Japan. That's when Carrie becomes even more frightened and asks herself how Mano knew she came from another world. Even more shocking is when Mano says goodbye and tells Carrie she always wished she had her ability so she could change the world the way she wanted, and wishes her a pleasant time if she manages to leave the city this time. As soon as Mano leaves, Carrie starts talking to herself, saying she needs to understand more about what's going on, and she feels like all the answers lie with Mano. So she decides to start investigating her and try to find answers to everything she doesn't understand. Meanwhile, Momo gets the girl to tell her the location of the records where everything related to the drug is documented. She finds a book stating that they started producing the drug 2 weeks ago. The room she's in leads to a secret passage, and as she walks through it, she finds the room where the drug is being made. In the middle, there's a metal coffin dripping blood, and the blood is being turned into the drug. When she opens the coffin, she finds the little girl inside, bleeding and in pain. She tries to help and get her out, but at that moment, there's an explosion, and the metal spikes in the coffin hit her. The spikes are poisoned. She starts bleeding too and tries to contact Mino for help, but can't speak. Meanwhile, Mino is frantically searching for Carrie everywhere, asking around. Some people tell her the last time they saw her was with Mano, and after Mano left, Carrie sat talking to herself, saying strange things. Mino is puzzled and starts thinking about why Carrie might have spoken with Mano and disappeared afterward. But she doesn't have time to look for her because she senses Momo and realizes something bad has happened to her. She rushes to her and manages to get her back to the castle, where they start treating her. As soon as she's sure that Momo will be okay, she goes to thank Seely and tells her that thanks to the information Momo gathered, they might be able to arrest the fourth gang, who were working with Mano to distribute the drug. Seely responds immediately, and the next day, the police surround Mano's palace and order everyone inside to come out and surrender. Mano holds a meeting with them to threaten and ensure they don't confess anything about her. But when she enters, she finds them all frozen in place, and sees Carrie there too, the one who did it. Carrie asks Mano if they can talk for a bit. Mano welcomes her warmly and gives her the chance to ask anything she wants. But Carrie speaks like she's interrogating her and says she snuck into her room last night and didn't find anything explaining how she knows her identity and ability. So she asks her how she found out all of that. Mano tells her that she's known for a long time that Carrie can turn back time, and that she hasn't done it just once or twice. She's done it many times. That's what the fog told her. So Carrie says there's still something that confuses her, how some things changed when she went back in time, and she guesses that Mano was behind it all, doing it to get revenge for her mother. Mano is the one who's surprised now and asks Carrie how she found out about her mother. Carrie tells her she overheard her followers talking about how she's doing all of this to avenge her mother's death. So Mano begins telling her about her mother, saying she came from Japan and the stars guided her to their world. The fourth welcomed her presence, and King Libel, Mano's father, loved her and married her. But he always forbade her from using her power because he was so afraid for her, since anyone who uses their power excessively loses part of their memory. He wanted her to remember every moment they shared together. But the story ends in tragedy. When Mano got a little older, her mother admitted to her that she had an older sister and was about to tell her more. But then Flair arrived and killed her in front of Mano's eyes. Carrie asks if she wants revenge on Mino just because she's Flair's student and to fulfill that revenge. But that turns out not to be the main reason. Mano truly believes that the powers of people who come from other worlds are dangerous and must be destroyed. She also says that if revenge were her only goal, she would have taken it out on the fourth too, because long ago, Her father convinced the nobles that his daughter would inherit her mother's power. But Mano was born a completely normal human with no power, which disappointed them greatly, and they constantly mocked her and told her she was useless, crushing her spirit and destroying her self-confidence. That's why she rebelled against them and did all this, to prove to them that she's the opposite of what they said. She's strong, has a personality, and is far better than them. Suddenly, black fog forms around her and starts to take over everything in the room, trying to possess Carrie. But Mino arrives just in time, breaks the glass, enters, grabs Carrie, and they escape quickly. Carrie starts crying and apologizes to Mino for making her worry and not listening like she promised. But Mino, unlike before, is very calm and speaks to Carrie gently, telling her the most important thing is that she's okay and that there are many questions she wants to ask. But this isn't the right time. She calls Seely to come take Carrie and make sure she's okay while she goes to fight Mano. At that point, Mano's power starts to show and the fog around her thickens. She speaks strange words. Mino can only make out power and rebellion. At the same time, Ashina is sitting with her hand on her cheek, annoyed because Momo hasn't reached out to her. She's also worried about her, thinking something might have happened, since she doesn't know what went down in the palace. Mino begins the battle. Mano attacks first. With the power of the fog, she destroys part of the palace to bring it down on Mino. But Mino blocks all her attacks, swings up to the ceiling, and suddenly drops in front of Mano, stabbing her in the arm with a dagger while chanting a magical spell. Boom! A blast goes off, and Mano's arm is blown off. Before she dies, Mino grabs her and asks why she's doing all of this. That's when Mano explains her desire to rebel against the world. She advises Mino that she can do the same and that Carrie will help her, because she always said that Mino is the only one capable of changing what's coming. But Mino doesn't understand what she means and asks what Carrie has to do with all this. Mano refuses to answer, saying it's a secret between her and Carrie. She also tells her that she targeted the wrong person. Suddenly, Mano collapses and dies, and from her corpse, a small girl emerges, the same girl Mano had been using for her blood in drug production. The girl starts speaking innocently, saying she's so happy she got out and will meet new people. But Mino is terrified of her, so she goes and kills her, but the girl rises again from her body. Mino suspects she might be immortal and that her power is similar to Carrie's, so she asks if she's one of the monsters. But the girl tells her she's just a regular human like her. Meanwhile, Ashina's guards manage to capture those involved with Mano in drug production and distribution. She takes one of them aside and interrogates him. He swears that Mano was behind everything, that she tricked them and put the drug in their food and drinks to control them. They carried out her orders without being conscious. But Mino still doesn't trust the girl and is convinced she's a monster. The little girl feels insulted and tells Mino she's not a monster, but Mino refuses to speak with her and says she won't waste her time. She needs to find a way to kill her now. The girl laughs at her and tells her that killing her is impossible. Even the white hero couldn't defeat her. Then the girl starts losing it, speaking nonsense, saying that if Mino wants to kill her, she should go ahead, because that will only give her more reason to take revenge, since she hates all humans. Suddenly, her head spins around until it detaches, and black fog bursts out of her. From inside her body, a group of enormous monsters emerges, and the girl is reborn once again. Meanwhile, Ashina senses what's happening in the palace because the magic and fog released were extremely powerful, and the man she was interrogating begins to transform into a monster because of the drug. At that moment, Mino stands surrounded by many monsters, among them the little girl, who tells her that her name is Chaos Storm, named after the fog, but that the one who actually created the fog was the White Knight. That's when Mino realizes she must eliminate the little girl immediately because she's one of the monsters, one of the 4 sins, and to reach her, she has to destroy the monster gate the girl created. First, she attacks the first monster and slices it in half, then does the same with the second and third. Using her magic book, she casts a spell and tries to seal the gate. She pulls out a rope and wraps it around the girl to restrain her, but then another version of the girl appears, and she becomes confused, unable to tell which one is the original. Meanwhile, Momo's condition worsens, her temperature rises, and she's on the verge of death. When Carrie hears this, she feels really bad and goes to heal her, even though she doesn't like her because she's been Mino's companion for a long time. Meanwhile, Mino eliminates one of the copies, but it turns out it wasn't the real one. The little girl thanks her for helping her get in the mood and start the real battle. She begins explaining to Mino that she was the one who asked Mano to create the drug so her blood would flow through people's bodies and turn them into monsters. All because she loves horror films and decided to make her own, asking Mino to be the heroine of her horror movie and act scared and run away from her. But Mino refuses and decides to stand and fight, which frustrates the little girl. So she creates a large number of monsters and releases them into the city, telling Mino that if she insists on fighting, she better be ready for what's coming. At that time, Ashina is shocked by what happened to the man she was interrogating. He suddenly turned into a monster and melted. Guards arrive and tell her that there's a major crisis in the city and that many people have started turning into monsters and are dying instantly. Meanwhile, Mino is still in the palace, creating a magical barrier to prevent the monsters from escaping, but it drains a huge amount of her magical energy. The little girl cuts off part of her arm and throws it to the monsters. When they eat it, their size increases, they grow arms like hers, and they manage to climb the barrier. But Mino uses more of her power, opens the red crystal, and turns it into a gate that sucks all the monsters inside. When the monsters vanish, Mino is completely exhausted. Her energy is drained, and she can't recover it. The girl seizes this opportunity and charges with her other arm to slice Mino in half. But Ashina arrives just in time, throws her sword at the girl's arm, and cuts it off. She then introduces herself to Mino, since it's their first time meeting. Mino explains that what they're facing now is Chaos Storm, one of the 4 human errors, and that she must be eliminated. Ashina agrees to help and offers a portion of her power so they can fight together. She pulls out her lightning sword, which holds most of her strength, and strikes it into the ground. Mino absorbs the energy and spreads it around the palace, controlling it. She channels a portion of it and launches it at the girl, causing an explosion that gives them a chance to breathe. Ashina suddenly remembers that Mino is the same girl who works with Momo and asks her about Momo, since they were supposed to meet but she never showed up. Suddenly, there's another explosion in the area and a giant monster appears in place of the little girl. Carrie sees the explosion from afar and wants to rush in to help Mino, but she hears a voice telling her not to go. When she turns, she sees the little girl, who asks her not to go so she doesn't disrupt the movie's events. Since she's the only one who can change the future, Carrie is terrified of the girl. Her appearance and way of speaking are horrifying. She freezes her in place, but the little girl isn't affected by Carrie's power at all. She removes her own arms and uses them to strangle Carrie. Meanwhile, Momo and Ashina are facing another version of the little girl, who introduces the monster in front of them as the true star of the movie. It used to feed on human flesh when it was in the fog. Carrie wants to talk to the girl and understand what's going on, but the girl tells her that if she can defeat her here and now, the monster will disappear. But that's impossible because Carrie is far too weak to do that. The girl gets curious and asks Carrie to tell her about her memories from Japan, but Carrie refuses to recall anything from her past. Mino and Ashina realize the girl they're fighting isn't the original, and that the real monster hasn't fully emerged from the fog yet. They can tell by how thick the fog still is. They ask the girl how she managed to bring the monster out of the fog prison, since that's nearly impossible. The girl says it's a secret, but maybe Mino already knows what happened. Mino takes a moment to think and suspects it might have something to do with when she tried to push Carrie into the fog before. At that same moment, the little girl is speaking with Carrie and tells her that she's the reason for the world's destruction, because when she kept going back in time and escaping the fog prison repeatedly, she created a tiny crack. The girl was able to stick her finger through it and pull herself out. Once her finger was out, it grew, and she emerged entirely from the crack. That's why Carrie felt things were different every time she went back. When Carrie realizes she's the cause of everything happening in the world, she blames herself for everything and uses her power to try to destroy the girl, but another copy forms and returns. The girl tells her there's no way she can change what's going to happen, but then whispers in her ear that there's only one way to return to Japan. Mino becomes furious with Carrie, and this time, she has a strong motive to get rid of her. But first, she tells Ashina that they must eliminate this girl if they want to have any chance of defeating Carrie. The girl becomes excited and says this will be the final scene of the movie. Suddenly, she transforms into an extremely tall, terrifying monster. Carrie is completely shocked by what she heard, and the girl tells her that the reason behind the creation of the 4 catastrophes was that those people were rebelling against this world to find a way back to their own, and they actually found one. But Carrie refuses to listen to anything else and says she wants to stay here and never return, even if she dies at Mino's hands. Meanwhile, Mino and Ashina agree that they should conserve their energy, because in a little while, the fog will grow and trap all the monsters again, including the girl. They must stay alive until that happens. Ashina tells her that if they keep slicing it up, its soul count will eventually drop to 0 and it'll die. But the monster tells them that yes, that's exactly what will happen, except they'll die first and it will take over the world. Ashina slices the monster into many pieces using the lightning sword, but the pieces don't disappear. They scatter and start attacking the townspeople. Ashina realizes she made the problem worse, so Mino suggests that she go help the townspeople while she stays behind to stall the monster. Suddenly, the monster grabs Mino, boom. She slams into the ground, and it steals her sword, the only one she really has, and eats it. Mino is now in serious trouble and doesn't know what to do. She starts running away quickly, chased by the scattered monsters, but they catch her and start pulling her limbs apart. She screams in pain, feeling like it's the end for her, until a miracle happens. A fire sword falls on the monsters and frees her. She hears Aina shouting her name, telling her to use her sword. Mino thanks her, grabs the sword, ignites the flames, and wipes out a huge number of monsters. Carrie also heads down into the city and uses her power to get rid of the monsters. But Mino uses up a huge amount of energy, and soon her magic and the sword's power are drained. She collapses on the ground from exhaustion, and the monster tells her this is the end and attacks her. But suddenly, time freezes and rewinds a few minutes. Carrie appears and asks Mino to use her power, but Mino grabs Carrie and flies away before the monster can catch them. They hide behind a rock, and Carrie asks Mino to use her magic and finish the monster. Mino agrees. The monster watches them from afar and claps, calling it a sad moment that'll be a great addition to his movie. He gathers all his parts and attacks Carrie and Mino, lifting their corpses into the sky and boasting proudly. But suddenly, the corpses change into one of the monster's own limbs. It was a decoy from Mino. She recovers her sword and channels Carrie's power into Ashina's flame sword, charging it until its fire reaches the sky. Together, she and Carrie strike the monster and split it in half. Luckily, the monster's soul count finally runs out. It falls and dies. Mino walks over and asks the monster for the real reason he did all of this, because she never believed the movie story. But the monster insists that he wanted to create a world exactly like the one in his head. Right before dying, he tells her a dangerous secret. The salt blade of the White Knight is the only weapon that can kill any human with a special power. Mino is stunned and starts to panic, now that she knows the way to kill Carrie. A few days later, we see Mano waking up in another world. Beside her is the little girl, who starts talking and says she loves movies so much and wants to make a new one in this world they've arrived in. That's when Mano has a moment of realization. She remembers her mother before she died, telling her about her sister and how she loved movies. She senses that the girl in front of her matches that exact description, and she's right because the girl is her sister, the one her mother told her about. Meanwhile, Mino goes to speak with her friend Momo and tells her she's deeply upset because she'll have to travel to Salt Island and retrieve the sword shield used to kill her friend Carrie. Momo gets really sad the moment she sees how heartbroken her friend is. That night, she sits alone, thinking it over, and decides to take the burden off her friend's shoulders and travel in her place. To kill Carrie herself,